Chapter 4. The Cup or the Monad. This short text gives an unusually lucid overview of the foundations of Hermetic thought. The stress on rejection of the body and its pleasures, and on the division of humanity into those with mind and those without, are reminiscent of some of the so-called Gnostic writings of the same period. The idea that the division is a matter of choice, on the other hand, is a pleasant variation on the almost Calvinist flavor of writings, such as the Apocalypse of Adam. Hermes. With reason, not with hands, did the world maker make the universal world, so that thou shouldst think of him as everywhere and ever being, the author of all things, and one and only, who by his will all things hath been created. The body of him is a thing no man can touch, or see, or measure, a body inextensible, like to no other frame. 'Tis neither fire nor water, air nor breath, yet all of them come from it. Now being good-willed, he too consecrate this body to himself alone, and sets its earth in order and adorn it. So down to earth he sent the cosmos of his frame divine, man, a life that cannot die, and yet a life that dies. And over all other lives, and over cosmos too, did man excel by reason of the reason and the mind. For a contemplator of God's works did man become. He marveled and did strive to know their author. Reason indeed, O Tat, among all men hath he distributed, but mind not yet, not that he grudgeth any, for grudging cometh not from him, but has its place below, within the souls of men who have no mind. Tat. Why then did God, O Father, not on all bestow a share of mind? He willed, my son, to have it set up in the midst for souls, just as it were a prize. And where hath he set it up? He filled a mighty cup with it, and sent it down, joining a herald to it, to whom he gave commands to make this proclamation to the hearts of men. Baptize thyself with this cup's baptism. What heart can do so? Thou that hast faith, thou canst ascend to him that hath sent down the cup. Thou that dost know for what thou'st come into being. As many then as understood the herald's tidings, and doused themselves in mind, became partakers in the gnosis. And when they had received the mind, they were made perfect men. But they who do not understand the tidings, these, since they possess the aid of reason and not mind, are ignorant wherefore they have come into being and whereby. The senses of such men are like irrational creatures, and as their whole makeup is in their feelings and their impulses, they fail in all appreciation of those things which really are worth contemplation. These center all their thought upon the pleasures of the body and its appetites, and the belief that for its sake man hath come into being. But they who have received some portion of God's gift, these, Tat, if we judge by their deeds, have from death's bond won their release. For they embrace in their own mind all things, things on the earth, things in the heaven, and things above the heaven. And having raised themselves so far, they sight the good, and having sighted it, they look upon their sojourn here as a mischance, and in disdain of all, both things in body and the bodiless. They speed their way unto that one and only one. This is, O Tat, the gnosis of the mind, vision of things divine. God knowledge is it, for the cup is God's. Father, I too would be baptized. Unless thou first shall hate thy body, son, thou canst not love thyself. But if thou lovest thyself, thou shalt have mind, and having mind thou shalt share in the gnosis. Father, what dost thou mean? It is not possible, my son, to give thyself to both. I mean to things that perish and to things divine. For seeing that existing things are twain, body and bodiless, in which the perishing and the divine are understood. The man who hath the will to choose is left the choice of one or the other, for it can never be twain should meet. And in those souls to whom the choice is left, the waning of the one causes the other's growth to show itself. Now the choosing of the better not only proves a lot most fair for him who makes the choice, seeing it makes the man a god, but also shows his piety to God. Whereas the choosing of the worse, although it doth destroy the man, it doth only disturb God's harmony to this extent, that as processions pass by in the middle of the way, without being able to do anything but take the road from others, so do such men in procession through the world led by their body's pleasures. This being so, O Tat, what comes from God hath been and will be ours. But that which is dependent on ourselves, let this press onward and have no delay, for 'tis not God. 'Tis we who are the cause of evil things, preferring them to good. Thou seest, son, how many are the bodies through which we have to pass. Thou seest, son, how many are the bodies through which we have to pass. How many are the choirs of daemons, how vast the system of the star courses, to hasten to the one and only God. For to the good there is no other shore, it hath no bounds, it is without an end, and for itself it is without beginning too, though unto us it seemeth to have one. The Gnosis. Therefore to it Gnosis is no beginning, rather is it to us the first beginning of its being known. Let us lay hold, therefore, of the beginning, and quickly speed through all we have to pass. 'Tis very hard. 'Tis very hard to leave the things we have grown used to, which meet our gaze on every side, and turn ourselves back to the old paths. Appearances delight us, whereas things which appear not make their believing hard. And now evils are the more apparent things, whereas the good can never show itself unto the eyes, for it hath neither form nor figure. Therefore the good is like itself alone, and unlike all things else, or 'tis impossible that that which hath no body should make itself apparent to a body. The like's superiority to the unlike, and the unlike's inferiority unto the like, consists in this: the oneness being source and root of all, is in all things as root and source. Without this source is naught, whereas the source itself is from naught but itself, since it is source of all the rest. It is itself its source, since it may have no other. The oneness then being source, containeth every number, but is contained by none. Engineereth every number, but is engineered by no one. Now all that is engendered is imperfect, it is divisible, to increase subject and to decrease, but with the perfect one none of these things doth hold. Now that which is increasable increases from the oneness, but succumbs through its own feebleness when it can no longer contain the one. And now, God's image hath been sketched for thee, as far as it can be. And if thou wilt attentively dwell on it and observe it with thine heart's eyes, believe me, thou shalt find the path that leads above. Nay, that image shall become thy guide itself, because the sight hath this peculiar charm. It holds fast and draws unto those who succeed in opening their eyes, just as they say, the magnet draws iron. Chapter 5. Though unmanifest, God is most manifest. This sermon is a fairly straightforward Hermetic version of the argument by design, a standard approach since ancient times to a proof of the existence of God. Typically, for a Hermetic tractate, its choice of evidence includes a paean on the beauty and perfection of the human form. We begin. I will recount to thee this sermon too, O Tat, that thou mayest cease to be without the mysteries of the God beyond all name. And mark thou well how that which to the many seems unmanifest will grow most manifest for thee. Now were it manifest, it would not be. For all that is made by manifest is subject to becoming, for it hath been made manifest. But the unmanifest forever is, for it doth not desire to be made manifest. Ever it is, and maketh manifest all things. But being himself unmanifest, as ever being and ever making manifest, himself is not made manifest. God is not made by himself by thinking manifest, i.e. thinking into existence. He thinketh all things manifest. Now thinking manifest deals with things made alone, for thinking manifest is nothing else than making. He then alone who is not made, 'tis clear, is both beyond all power of thinking manifest and is unmanifest. And as he thinketh all things manifest, he manifests through all things and in all, and most of all in whatsoever things he wills to manifest. Shit's so like it makes sense, but it doesn't. Do thou then, Tat, my son, pray first unto our Lord and Father, the one and only one, from whom the one doth come, to show his mercy unto thee, in order that thou mayest have the power to catch a thought of this so mighty God, one single beam of him to shine into thy thinking, for thought alone sees the unmanifest, in that it is itself unmanifest. If then thou hast the power, he will Tat manifest to thy mind's eyes. The Lord begrudgeth not himself to anything, but manifests himself through the whole world. Thou hast the power of taking thought, of seeing it and grasping it in thy own hands, and gazing face to face upon God's image. But if what is within thee even is unmanifest to thee, how then shall he himself who is within thyself be manifest for thee by means of outer eyes? But if thou wouldst see him, bethink thee of the sun, bethink thee of moon's course, bethink thee of the order of the stars. Who is the one who watcheth over that order? For every order hath its boundaries, and marked out by place and number. The sun's the greatest God of gods in heaven, to whom all the heavenly gods give place as unto king and master, and he, this so great one, he greater than the earth and sea, endures to have above him circling smaller stars than him, out of respect to whom, or out of fear of whom, my son, doth he do this? Not like nor equal is the course each of these stars describes in heaven. Who then is he who marketh out the manner of their course and who then is he who marketh out of the manner of their course and its extent? The bear up there that turneth round itself and carries round the whole cosmos with it. Who is the owner of this instrument? Who he hath set round the sea its bounds? Who has set the seat the earth? For tat, there is someone who is the maker and Lord of all these things. It counts not be that number, place, and measure could be kept without someone to make them. No order whatsoever could be made by that which lacketh place and lacketh measure. Nay, even this is not without a Lord, my son. For if the orderless lacks something, and that it is not Lord of order's path, it also is beneath a Lord, the one who hath not yet ordained it order. Would that it were possible for thee to get thee wings and soar into the air, and poised midway tween earth and heaven, behold the earth's solidity, the sea's fluidity, the spaciousness of air, fire's swiftness, and the coursing of the stars, the swiftness of heaven's circuit around them all. Most blessed sight were it, my son, to see all these beneath one sway, the motionless in motion, and the unmanifest made manifest, whereby is made this order of the cosmos, and the cosmos which we see of order. If thou wouldst see him too through things that suffer death both on the earth and in the deep, think of a man's being fashioned in the womb, my son, and strictly scrutinize the art of him who fashions him, and learn who fashions this fair and godly image of man. Who then is he who traceth out of the circles of the eyes? Who is it who boreth out the nostrils and the ears? Who that opens the portals of the mouth? Who stretches out and ties the nerves? Who channels out the veins, hardens the bones, covers the flesh with skin? Who separates the fingers and the joints? Who widens out a treading for the feet? Who diggeth out the ducts? Who spreadeth out the spleen? Who shapeth the heart to a pyramid? Who settles ribs? Who wideneth the liver? Who maketh lungs like a sponge? Who maketh belly stretch so much? Who makes prominent the parts most honorable, so that they may be seen while hiding out of sight those of least honor? Behold, how many arts employed on one material, how many labors on one single sketch, and all exceeding fair, and all in perfect measure, yet all diversified. Who made them all? What mother or what sire, save God alone, unmanifest made, hath made all things by his will?